Hey everyone, it's Sun Types, and today I'm going to be going over the top 10 best EXs from Space Time Smackdown, aka all of them, and ranking them in order. The EXs are, I was going to say they're the best and most impactful cards from any new set. That would actually probably be the trainers, but those are kind of boring, and there's only a few that are really good. So the EXs realistically are the most impactful on the metagame, and there are 10. There's two packs, five from each pack, and so I'm going to be ranking all of them. A bit of a spoiler: the basics, unsurprisingly, are the best. But the EXs from the set are really interesting and are pretty solid. There are some that are quite strong and are substantially changing the metagame as well, but I figured I'd just rank all of them, and I think some of these might surprise you as well. But the worst one is, in my opinion, Licky Licky EX. Admittedly, the bad ones are, it's kind of splitting hairs. Let's be honest, people probably aren't going to be playing these cards that much. I haven't really seen like a lot of these ones near the bottom. Licky Licky EX for 4 colorless on a stage 1 does 100. You flip a coin until you get tails, it does 40 more for each heads. This will average the same damage output as Gyarados EX, but half the time it's doing less than that. And doing more isn't that meaningful. I guess doing 180 is better than 140 some of the time, a somewhat meaningful amount of the time, but doing less is substantially worse. So Licky Licky is not good, right? It's expensive and its stats are mediocre. I mean, its HP is high, I guess, but it's not very good. And even if it like didn't have the coin flip inconsistencies, it still would not be that good, right? Gyarados EX is a very good card, or at least a strong, solid card, because of its high HP and its high damage, but also because it's water type. And so you can accelerate to it with Misty. You can still accelerate to this with Manaphy or things like that. So it's not impossible to get powered up, but it's also not very good. Keep in mind that EXs are generally substantially better than the regular cards. So the worst EX is not an unplayably bad card necessarily, but it's also not very good. The ninth EX I have here is Miss Major's EX. This one is another stage 1 EX, and it has 140 HP, so on the lower end here, and then for 2 Psychic, you do 70. Your opponent's active is now confused. In some ways, this is kind of similar to Starmie EX, because Starmie EX is 2 energy attacker on stage 1 that does similar damage output, and Confusion can be good, I guess. Special conditions are not really that important in Pocket, but they do play a factor in some games, and some decks do heavily rely on them, but they're not that good. I mean, you can retreat out of Confusion. Also, if you didn't know, Confusion works differently in Pocket than the regular TCG. I'm pretty sure it's the only special condition that is different, but normally in the regular TCG, you'd flip a coin when you attack, and if tails, it wouldn't happen, which is exactly how it works in Pocket. But in the regular TCG, you'd also take 30 damage. Confusion cannot do any damage in Pocket, which is interesting. Don't really know why. I mean, I feel like it doesn't matter that much at the end of the day. If you're missing attacks, that's a really big downside, and taking 30 damage can be meaningful, but it's not, that meaningful compared to the missing the attack. But regardless, it's still not that good. Special conditions are, as I said, mediocre. The damage is kind of mediocre to kind of bad. You have 140 HP, which is a bit of a break point right now, and you'd rather have more than that. But it's just not very strong. There's not too much to say about this card. I mean, I've gone into some detail, but ultimately it's just not that good. The number 8 card here I have, and I'd say this is stepping up a tier here. And this is going to be Infernape EX, which is a stage 2 EX. So we're stepping up a tier and also stepping up a stage, and you have 170 HP. You have free retreat, which is actually quite good on this Pokemon, and you do 140 for 2 fire and discard all fire from this Pokemon when you attack. I mean, you will not be able to attack next turn with this Infernape EX. At all. I don't believe there's any. That's technically not true. You could use Dawn, I guess, would allow you to do that, but I have not seen that. I've not seen very much Infinite EX, though we are starting to get into cards that I've occasionally seen. But this Pokemon can do solid damage. 140 is decent. I was talking about that number before, and it's you're actually doing it right with the other Pokemon with Licky Licky EX. You're not necessarily doing 140, but you can do a solid damage output. It's cheap. It is a stage 2, and in some ways this is kind of comparable to Charizard EX and a stage 2 fire Pokemon that is strong, that does lose energy when it attacks, but you're not, streaming attacks, and you're not necessarily one-shotting everything either. So it's okay. It's kind of underwhelming, I'd say. It's not a terrible EX, but it's also not very good. Fury Retreat is quite nice. In some ways, this is actually kind of similar to Starmie EX. It's not applying consistent pressure, but it can provide pressure turn 3 going first, and do very big damage here. So it's an okay card. Not that good, though. Then the next card I have is Gallade EX. This is actually like super similar to Infernape EX, and this one has 170 HP and has 1 retreat, and that was weak to Psychic, which Psychic's like okay. I haven't talked about weakness so far, but that'll become a bit more relevant as we get going further into the video. But Energized Blade here for 2 fighting, you do 20 more for each energy attached to your opponent's active Pokemon. This will be hitting 110, 130, which is like pretty good. You can boost this with Lucario as well. Lucario is a stage 1, which is a very good card in my opinion from the set. It's one of the best single point Pokemon from the set, I think. I can't think of too many off the top of my head that are that good. So yeah, I guess it's pretty good. Like Magneton's good, and Shaman's okay. But yeah, Lucario is really solid, but it is a stage 1. Potentially you might want multiple stage 1s and then also a stage 2, and that's a lot of resources. So, I wouldn't say that Lucario. I mean, it makes it better when they're all together in the board, but that is hard to do. And you're not some like big setup deck either. You want to be decently fast because you are again two entries on stage 2, just like Infernape EX. And you have similar ideas of going decently fast, but you are stage 2, so you aren't necessarily going that fast because of inconsistencies. There's Pokemon communication to help you out, and if you are playing Lucario, a 2-2 line of that and a 2-2-2 line of Gallade EX, then, and maybe even something else, then you're playing a ton of Pokemon, which means Pokemon communication should be active most of the time and usable. But Gallade EX is still not that strong, and not, its stats are solid. It's okay. I've seen this Pokemon a little bit, and as it's okay. And then we have Yanmega EX. Yanmega EX is a card that I think is solid. We're now getting into the tier of like good. Yanmega EX, I wouldn't say is that good, but it's okay for 3 colorless, which is really interesting. This is one of the first Pokemon that's all colorless. That is not a colorless attacking cost, but it is not a colorless Pokemon. It is a grass type Pokemon. It's weak to lightning, which is like kind of bad, but grass can hit weakness, unlike colorless, and you do 120, you discard a random energy from this Pokemon. Um, Not really. I guess it's faster than discarding one of your choice, so that's why that's done. But anyways, this is solid. Your stats are solid. 120 for 3 in a stage 1 is okay. And then it's colorless, so you can put this into anything. And Darkrai EX is a card we'll be talking about later on in the video. It is really good and really highly played, and I believe weak to grass, so you will just one-shot them, and you do very solid damage. So it's a solid Pokemon that can be put into various different decks, and it's pretty versatile. It's not a card that I think is I mean, it's actually seen a decent amount of play. Just looking at the metagame, we see it played with Dialga EX. We see it with Executor EX as well. So a couple of different builds, and it might be in some of these other decks. I'm not really sure. But Yanmega EX is a pretty okay Pokemon, and that I think will be nice if you do want to hit grass weakness, and it does like hit the breakpoints right, which it does now. And then also it is a Pokemon that it's not like damaging itself, kind of like Arcanine EX does. So it's a solid Pokemon that can be put into any deck. And if we get really good energy acceleration, I think this card will be good. This card is again good right now with a mediocre energy acceleration. But if we have like an ability that lets you accelerate as much energy as you want, which we might, I would not be shocked if we do. Right now we just have like Gardevoir, which is certainly not that. But yeah, this card is a card to watch out for that is okay right now. The last evolution on this list, they've all been evolutions so far, yes. The evolutions are all worse than the basics, in my opinion. But Weavile EX here has 140 HP. Again, like so many of these Pokemon have 140 HP. But you have an attack for only 1 darkness, which says Scratching Nails. If your opponent's active Pokemon has damage on it, it does 40 more. Otherwise, it does a base of 30. So just 30 or 70. 70 for 1 on a stage 1 is like really good. That's kind of insane. That's obviously not what you're doing consistently. You need some form of setup. There is Dark Rat EX, there is Greninja, there is Rocky Helmet, there is just attacking once and then attacking again. So you will be two-shotting, I guess. I don't know, not necessarily if you just scratching nails twice, but you'll certainly be three-shotting. It's only one energy. It's very cheap. It synergizes very well with Darkrai EX as well. I think Weavile EX is a pretty cool Pokemon. There's also Spiritomb. I didn't mention that with the ways to get damage on your opponent's board. It's a solid card. Again, it is weak to grass and has 140 HP, which means that it will be one-shotted by on Mega EX, which is like not ideal. It's not super common, but is a thing. And so it's not the tankiest, but it's a solid Pokemon. It's very cheap, and with the right stuff next to it, which again, it is cheap, so you have more um, like opportunity. You're not necessarily waiting on Weavile EX. You might be waiting on other things, but you just pop it down, attach energy, and you're good to go. You're a very solid Pokemon here, and definitely one that is if we're talking like competitive cards, it's a competitive card. It's not amazing, but it's pretty good. Then we have moving into the top four, which are they're all basics. We have Palkia EX here. Palkia EX I could see being higher. Looking at the metagame again, we see that water is quite popular in Vaporeon or Palkia EX with Vaporeon and Manaphy. Manaphy's like really important to the deck. Is good. It's not an absolutely insane deck, but it's good. And I would say that a big part of the reason this deck is good is because of Manaphy and then like Misty. You have great acceleration. So Palkia EX is a strong Pokemon though with its attack that does 150 for 4. If you're familiar with Mewtwo EX, which I imagine if you play Pocket, then you are, as it's been I would not say it's been the best Pokemon in the game throughout the history of Pocket, but I imagine a lot of people would. And it did 150 for 4. You discarded 2 Psychic from it. Palkia EX, you discard 3 Water from it. Yes, you will be able to use Slash next turn, but that's only 30 for 1. And Slash is like not very meaningful on Palkia EX, I don't think. At least in my experience playing with and against the card, it has not been meaningful. But maybe that's just the matchup stuff hit, but it's definitely less meaningful than Articuno EX's first attack. But you also do 20 to each your opponent's bench Pokemon. This is nice specifically because it triggers Cyrus, allowing you to gust up one of your opponent's bench Pokemon, really any of them. So that's really nice, but losing the energies is a big deal. You really need to get the energies on beforehand. Potentially using Vaporeon and Manaphy or just Manaphy or Misty, there's a lot of water support. Water is just an amazing type with all the stuff that's going for it, but Palkia X is able to take good advantage. A big reason why I have it is only the 5th deck here is because it's really reliant on the other water stuff. That doesn't mean it's bad. That makes it better, but it's not necessarily amazing in its own right, unlike, in my opinion, the other 3 cards on this list. But yeah, it's a very strong card, one that is good in the metagame, not in the top deck, but one of the top decks, and a card that I imagine will continue to be good. It has 150 HP as well, which is nice. I said there are a lot. With 140 having 10 more than that certainly is nice. So you're a tanky basic here. Speaking of tanky basics, Pachirisu EX is not that, but it is a pretty solid, efficient attacker. If you know me and my thoughts on Pocket and like what's good, I think Pikachu EX is really good. I still think it's really good. I think Pachirisu EX is also really good. It's very similar. For 2 lightning, you do 40 or 80 if you have a tool attached. Getting a tool attached, I don't think is that hard. And the tools are good. Well, Lumberry's bad, but the other 2 tools, and by the way, Lumberry like could be used, and if special conditions become good, it is good. But it also falls off. I'm pretty sure. I've not played with it or seen anyone play it. But yeah, you get to if it triggers you discard it. But anyways, the other 2 tools are really good. Rocky Helmet and Giant Cape. Right now, Pikachu X is not a super highly played deck. I think it should be better and more highly played. I think it is still very good with Pachirisu EX, or Pachirisu EX without Pikachu EX is still good as well. Lightning, obviously, Magnezone or Magneton. Those 2 are, just so good together. Obviously, the one evolves into the next, but the ability into the strong attack is absurd. But you can pop Pachirisu in there for like an actual Lightning deck. Because Magnezone usually played with Darkrai, which does not play lightning energy from the energy zone. It generates it exclusively through Magneton's ability. But anyways, Pachirisu EX, is efficient. It's 80 for 2. That's really nice on a basic. Its HP is obviously lower, but the tool is nice. You're going to get value out of the tool pretty consistently, I think. So and that can it doesn't necessarily make up for your lower HP. Like Giant Cape doesn't necessarily fix that. It makes it higher, but any other Pokemon could also put Giant Cape on and be have higher HP. But it's a very very solid Pokemon that is efficient and strong and relatively low setup as well. So I think it's way easier to get going than most of these other Pokemon. Number two, I have Dialga EX. This one I wasn't really sure where to put in terms of like competitive, the competitive metagame. It's not that good. I mean, it's a decent card, but it's not absolutely insane. Um, but the reason I have it here is because it allows you to accelerate 2 metal energy from your energy zone to one of your bench Pokemon for 2 metal, and it does 30. And this can be to any type of Pokemon, which is really nice. It's not the only form of general energy acceleration. We also got Manaphy from the set. Manaphy is a really, really exceptional card. It's a card that I think it might be um, the second best card in the set behind Cyrus. Maybe I'm not sure. I'm not entirely sure of how I'd rank the cards. I definitely rank Cyrus first, but Manaphy is really good. Dialga EX, in my opinion, is worse. Manaphy's HP is low though. Dialga EX is a card that has 150 HP, that is harder to get through and applies a little bit of pressure in the early game. You cannot accelerate to yourself, which is a bit of a downside. Heavy Impact is a very it's a pretty underwhelming attack in my opinion. It's usable, and I've played against a bunch of Dialga EX, and I think I played with it some as well. Though I haven't, like, I have the stuff for the Dialga EX decks, and I haven't played with it that much because I think it's okay. However, Metal is bad, right? Metal outside of the Dialga EX is quite disappointing. Metal is okay, but not that good. I've played against it some, or I at first played against it a bunch, and then people stopped because it wasn't particularly strong. But down the EX is a card that can accelerate a bunch of energy onto your board, and if we ever end up seeing, I mean, Mew EX is a really solid cardless attacker, and same thing with yeah, Mega EX and Tauros as well. But if we see something that's like really amazing, I think Dialga EX will quickly shoot up, and this is more so like a future one. I expect it to be potentially really impactful. Especially if we get like another metal EX that's strong, then I think this will be really good. Or maybe Arceus EX, which I think will be coming in the mini set. I don't really know exactly what their ideas are, but that to me makes sense. But anyways, Dahlia EX is good. The best one is Darkrai EX. I do want to quickly mention Cresselia EX. This one is like not new. Oh, it is new. It's actually newer. It's not in this set though. Cresselia EX is kind of bad, but I figure I'd mention it. I don't know where it would go on this list, probably somewhere near the bottom. But anyways, yeah, that's it's not being ranked. But Darkrai EX is similar to Cresselia EX, except it's good. It has 140 HP and is weak to grass, so yeah, Mega EX will be one-shotting it, and other grass Pokemon will be hitting it for weakness, which can be quite meaningful. Not the biggest thing, but can, as I said, matter. But then your ability here says whenever you attach a darkness energy from your energy zone to this Pokemon, you do 20 to your opponent's active. And this is not an attack either. So if they have Darkness in the active, or they have Rocky Helmet attached, or yeah, I guess those are the things where it would matter, then you do not take the damage, which is nice, meaning you can apply pressure while not attacking, which is like super unique. You have Greninja, which also does that, and Drudgeon and Rocky Helmet, which I just mentioned, which kind of do that. But yeah, this is nice, applying pressure on a basic, taking your energy attachment for the turn. It's like a fair trade-off, I think, but the meta has actually moved to a much slower meta game. So now you can attach to Darkrai EX a bunch. I don't know exactly why. I mean, obviously Darkrai EX is, so if you don't know, Darkrai EX is like super good. Like the decks that it's played in. Darkrai EX and Magnet Zone is limitless, and what I've seen just playing the most played deck by like a wide margin. Um, yeah, and then Darkrai EX Greninja is also widely played, or it's really good win rate wise, and played a decent amount. I'm shy this is not played more because like everyone has Greninja, or not everyone, but almost everyone has Greninja. It was given away for free, so and it's really fun as well. I think I personally like it more than the Magnet Zone build in terms of just fun factor. And then Weavile EX Darkrai EX is also good. It's not amazing. It's fine, but it's certainly solid and fun and a deck that people play. And a logical combination. But Darkrai EX has really performed well. That's not exactly why it's here. It's part of why it's here, but The reason why it is actually good is because it can apply pressure to your opponent's Pokemon. Um, will also, like, you're applying pressure by damaging them. You're applying pressure sitting behind a single point wall where your opponent cannot, like, they haven't hit your Darkrai EX, so they can't Cyrus it up, or they could Sabrina, but ideally you have more Pokemon on your bench, and you're also powering up this Pokemon, getting energy on it. There's a point in the game where you'll get a bunch of energy on it, and then you just keep putting more on, and it's not like you're doing anything. You can kind of figure this out and like fix it with Dawn, but that's not that good. And so Darkrai EX still is very good though. 80 for 3 on a basic is not very good, but if you account for the 3 energies and say like, oh, you add 60 extra damage and that's 140 for 3 on the basic, it can be kind of spread around and controlled to an extent. By both players. Your opponent can kind of manipulate it. It's only what's in the active, but it is really nice. This Pokemon is very solid and is going to be able to apply pressure very well. And also with the like Magnezone or Magnezone and Greninja, you can kind of sit, and Druddigon as well. Those 3 have been amazing partners for Darkrai EX so far, creating a deck that you kind of don't want to hit into just randomly, and you don't want to chip away at, but you kind of have to. You really need to do a lot of damage to get through this deck. Not an absolute absurd amount, but a good chunk. A lot of decks need to hit into it like 6, 7, 8 times, in my experience, or they don't. They just like pass. Because they're like, all right, I want to set up more so I can like one-shot stuff, but then you keep getting eaten away at by Darkrai EX. So Darkrai EX is really good. It's really strong. It's fun. It's a card I'd highly recommend you get. I made a video talking about cards you should get from the new Pocket Set, and Darkrai EX was the only Pokemon there. It's really cool, and I'd highly recommend it. But anyways, I hope you enjoyed the video. Tell me down below in the comments how you'd rank these cards. But as I said, I hope you enjoyed, and as always, I'm excited to see you in the next video.